My involvement as a composer started years after my actual entry into music as a player. I joined a military band, Jamaican military band, as an apprentice, and I played in several orchestras around Kingston for many years, in the 50s, that is. I joined the band in 1951. And some of the names that you'd know, Lord Fly, Mapletop Pool, Ivy Graden, and all those, and all the nightclubs that we could find in Kingston. Unfortunately, we don't have many of these clubs anymore. Club Havana, Adastra, Bournemouth, Glass Bucket. Yes, I played those places, you know. But during my playing days, I decided that playing wasn't enough of what I wanted. So I started studying arranging from the University Extension Conservatory in Chicago. And that gave me the push in 1962 when the call was out for a national anthem of Jamaica. And I had the good fortune of being asked to arrange that anthem. And I've followed the performances of the anthem for many years. And of course, there are certain things that I still know are not going right in the national anthem. I think the second line of one verse says that we should guard us, but some people say guide us, right? And there was a performance some years ago which I had to take hold of whenever the military band played in the National Stadium and they say Jamaica, Jamaica, boom. That part of it I had to take out because I had the privilege to be the director of music at that time, so I could call the shots and I say no more of this Jamaica boom. So you'll probably hear it being played now without that sound. And to tell you how it came about is that at that particular point, there is just a light drum roll. But when we go on parade, the bass drummer would give a thud. And so it became a boom on parade. And people, whenever they hear that, Jamaica, Jamaica, boom. But that is no longer the part of it. So that is 1962. And in the same year, I worked with Carlos Malcolm at the opening of the Little Theatre, where the opening show was Roots and Rhythms. And I did the arrangement for Madame Suez Ballet and Punky Rose Jamaican Fruits Ballet also. So that was a part of my training of being an arranger. Well, I still wasn't satisfied. Now in the military band, and I asked for a scholarship because I figured playing wasn't everything. But at the same time, we had other qualified musicians in the regimental band like Seaforth and Callender and those people. They were in the army also. And so when I asked for the scholarship to go to England, not knowing whether it's a Royal College or a Royal Military School or where, and they said yes. And they wrote to England, Royal Military School of Music, being a military school, and they said yes, so there's a vacancy for a bandmaster's course. But the director of music in Jamaica then was Captain Ted Wade. And so he said, let's have a competition. So it's now 4 of us, Seaforth, Callender, Tuller, and myself. And over 3 days of competition to find a winner. Out of a total of 500 marks, the nearest man to me was 80 marks behind me, and that was Seaforth. So off I went to England. That is 1965. Right? Now that studies in England will be for 3 years. But before you can embark on 3 years, you have to do 6 months, what we call passing in examination, to see if you're fit enough to continue. You're not going to become a bandmaster. And the first class we had, 14 of us, British and overseas. The professor came around, wanted to test your writing skills. And so he said, you write me British Grenadiers, you write me The Girl I Left Behind, you write me your national anthem. Piece of paper and your pen, that's all. You got to write from memory and everything like that. And so he walked around and he looked at me, and when he saw my work, he said, you used to write music. But that was the start of recognizing that there was some sort of talent around the place. Well, 6 months, and we had to do harmony and composition and theory and all these things, learning about acoustics and, you know, the different things that will make you into a bandmaster. The end of 6 months, there was this passing in examination, and I came third. So I was on the road, I was accepted, and then after that, we settled down to do music, arranging, composition, two-part invention, string quartets, and all these things. You have to write them and study. There are my composition skills coming into play now, because you're given 4 bars of music and to continue for 16 bars. So you will have to write the other amount of bars there with your own composition skills, imitations, and we know how it goes in composition. And so, in addition to that, we know how to learn to play all the instruments in the band. 10 of them, from the flute down to the tuba. Flute, oboe, saxophone, bassoon, French horn, trombone, all of those. You go to a professor for 3 months, you take your lessons, and then during those 3 months, you will sit in a band and you play one of the instruments you're doing. At the end of 3 months, you go in front of the director of the school, and you're awarded marks after playing up to a grade 4, grade 5 standard on each instrument. And then we continue doing all we have to do. I had a chance of playing in the director's band, which was 30 of us. The school had 250 students and pupils. 50 training to be bandmasters and 200 as pupils, who would go for 1 year on a particular instrument and go back home, but we would stay for 3 years. So during the director's band that I was involved in, I had a chance of playing at the Royal Albert Hall, London Philharmonic Orchestra, BBC Light Concert Orchestra, and that's the sort of training that you get in building your performances. It got to me at some time when I was now living in London, because the school is in Twickenham, and I asked, could I be released from the band? The director said, no, you can't. It's a part of your training. You see how we conduct the programs, and there's where you get the training from. So we continued with that. And then at the end of it, you have your examination where you have to conduct a piece from memory, and you have to conduct rehearsal piece. Now these things you have to conduct, they're not just simple pieces. Phèdre overture by Massenet, and you do things like the fresh shoots and really heavy work, Beethoven Fifth and all these things. That's what you're trained on to do. So conducting is something that is not just a matter of waving your hand and just jumping around with a little thing. It's the art of conducting. There's certain things you do not do. You do not bend the knees, you do not use your elbow. It has to be the wrist. When you go, that's what you do. You don't sort of, that is, you know, something to excite, but you don't really get compliance from the performance. Right? That part of it is that at the end of 3 years coming up, we have to prepare for final examinations. There are 7 weeks of examinations. I know it is done. The previous 7 years, over 3 days, those people who graduated, say 1960, you do their paper, 61, you do their papers, until you're year 65, and that is the final year, and that's how you get to become a bandmaster. Well, I got some high marks, and some not so high marks. The lowest marks was choral, but came third. They beat me by 1 mark for arranging. The instruments, 10 instruments, I came third. That is just tell you the amount of work you had to do. Well, the family joined me while I was there, and we came back to Jamaica, and I was appointed bandmaster, Jamaica Military Band, in 1968. And at the same time, I was asked to head the Festival Song Commission, big land bandmaster in charge of festival, military man in charge of this thing, you know, excitement in Jamaica. So that went on, and I settled in the band until about 74, I became a lieutenant, because the bandmaster is different from a director of music. A director of music is an officer. So unless you're a lieutenant, captain, or a major, or a lieutenant colonel, you're a bandmaster. So And during that time, the band was really riding high, and I was asked on many occasions to take the band on tours for the Jamaica Tourist Board. And we went to Chicago, we went to New York, we went to Minnesota, touring, Boston and all these places. And the highlight was to play at the Super Bowl in Miami, Orange Bowl in Miami, 1979, the 13th Super Bowl, and we led the parade. I was up front there with my drum major and two ladies from Air Jamaica with the Jamaica flag, and so that's the high point of it. So, you know, Jamaica Military Band for many, many years gave me the platform to do many things. Then my compositions, I had to compose now because the band requires quite a bit. So every time you go to military parade, and those soldiers are marching past the saluting days, we call it, and those marches, 4 of them are my original compositions, and 3 are my arrangements. And you'll find that in the civilian world, I have done about 30 odd compositions. Carifesta, I did a dancer, Joyce Campbell, had about 2,000 dancers in National Stadium dancing in Carifesta. I was the director of music along with Sonny Bradshaw. And that part of it was that I was the illumination director of music. First, you had to come to me with your directors from different parts of the Caribbean with their songs, and I did the illumination. But as a military man, I said, look, you have 10 minutes each. 3 minutes for a simple song, correct it the second time, and the third time is about 9 minutes gone, then that's your final, and you're off. Next one on. And the elimination took place there with Wycliffe Bennett was there, and Ted Wade and those people in the elimination process. The following day, Sonny came with the finalists, and that was Carifesta involvement. And the piece I composed was titled Pimento, which was merengue and mento rhythm. And a band I had a 15-piece band on stage with Tommy Mockhook and all those guys, and it went. But there's a sad thing that happened, which is a reflection on our music. Having played that piece on Carriage stage successfully, massive audience, that piece was given to a band in the National Stadium to accompany the dancers. I won't call the name of the band. And of course, they couldn't play it. And it is something that we should pay attention to in Jamaica. We are very short on finding musicians who can come forward and take a piece of music in not classical people, the pop world. In 1987, Lou Rawls came here, or 83, and I had to send musicians from the Jamaica Military Band to go and join his segment to perform. And if you look around today, I spoke earlier about in the 50s, the Glass Bucket and Club Havana. I played there for 5 months, and all these places. We don't have the nightclubs anymore, so we don't have the bands. And what we do now, I did what do you call it now? Not a symposium, notation program some 3 months ago. And what I learned from that is that people don't have a rhythm section anymore in a dance band, like a guitar and a bass and a drum and so. You go on the computer and you play something, you record it, and you say that is a rhythm. Hence, you listen to the radio and you find 10 different songs with the same rhythm, because it's a computerized thing, which is defeating the purpose of being creative. A musician is a creative person. Instinctively you compose, or you can go by the rules of composition and you know what follows. Because while in school, and I said you're given 4 bars to continue for 16 bars, you'll have to make sure that you know what to do, your modulations, and all the rest of it. What the School of Music is going to do, I don't know, Mr. Williams is there, Roger. If he has any influence at all, we'll have to get back. You know, I taught here for over 20 years. So I'm asking that if at all we can find funding to get people to come in to read music outside of the schedule of the school.